The night I ruined a billionaire's Christmas, snow wasn't the only thing falling. So was I falling out of love with my husband. Falling into the arms of the one man I was never meant to touch. Soul glittered beneath his penthouse windows like a lie dressed in gold, and somewhere between his broken pride and my breaking vows, something dangerous was born. I thought it was a mistake. I didn't know it would become an obsession, one that would cost us both everything. The cross tower stood like a shard of ice against Seoul's winter sky, 73 floors of glass and steel that cut through the falling snow. From the penthouse level, the city spread out below like a jewelry box, diamonds of light scattered across velvet darkness, Christmas decorations winking from every corner. It was beautiful. It was cold. It was exactly the kind of beauty that reminded you how alone you could be, even surrounded by millions of people. I checked my watch for the third time in 5 minutes. 8:47 p.m. If I didn't leave in the next 10 minutes, I'd miss the last bus to Incheon, and the subway would add another hour to my commute. My feet already ached from 12 hours of scrubbing marble floors and polishing chrome fixtures that cost more than my yearly salary. I was reaching for my coat when I heard it, the private elevator chiming its arrival. My heart dropped. He wasn't supposed to be home. The charity gala at the Grand Hyatt was supposed to keep him occupied until midnight at least. I'd watched him leave 6 hours ago in a Tom Ford tuxedo that probably cost more than my plane ticket from Atlanta, his supermodel girlfriend Hannah draped on his arm like an accessory. The elevator doors slid open with a whisper, and Min Ho stumbled out. No, stumbled was too gentle a word. He crashed out, expensive shoes scuffing against the floor, his bow tie hanging loose around his neck like a noose he'd been trying to escape. His shirt was half unbuttoned, and even from across the massive living room, I could smell the whiskey rolling off him in waves. I froze, coat half on, praying I could become invisible. In the 6 months I'd worked for him, we'd barely exchanged 10 words. That was how Min Ho liked it. His staff were furniture, meant to be useful and silent and utterly forgettable. But tonight, something was different. Tonight, the man who'd built an empire by his 32nd birthday, who'd crushed competitors and bought out rivals like he was playing Monopoly, looked broken. He moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows, pressing one palm against the cold glass. The city lights painted his face in alternating shadow and gold. His shoulders, usually so rigid with that corporate armor, sagged under some invisible weight. Then I heard him speak, voice rough and bitter as burnt coffee. "She said I can't satisfy her." He laughed, but the sound had no humor in it. "She's right. I can't satisfy anyone." I should have stayed silent. I should have slipped out like smoke, left him to his misery and his expensive whiskey and his view of a city that didn't care. But something about the rawness in his voice, the way he looked so utterly human in that moment, made empathy slip past my better judgment. "Maybe you just haven't met someone worth feeling for." The words escaped before I could stop them. Time crystallized. He went completely still, hand still pressed against the glass, snow falling soundlessly beyond. Then, slowly, dangerously slowly, he turned. His eyes found mine across the room, dark and glassy and electric with something I couldn't name. The air between us seemed to compress, to spark, to catch fire. "Say that again." It wasn't a request, it was a challenge, a dare. The air felt electric, like I'd just stepped into a storm. He crossed the room in 4 long strides, each step measured despite the alcohol in his system. When he stopped, he was close enough that I could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, could smell the expensive cologne mixing with whiskey and something else, anger, maybe, or desperation. "The help with opinions," he said, voice low and cutting. "How interesting. Tell me, does your job description include psychoanalysis, or are you just naturally this presumptuous?" He was testing me, I realized, pushing to see if I'd crumble, apologize, remember my place. 6 months ago, I would have. 6 months ago, I still believed in keeping my head down, working hard, building a life. But 6 months of Malcolm's phone calls growing shorter, his excuses growing longer, his promises growing emptier had burned something out of me. So instead of cowering, I met his gaze. "At least my job. doesn't depend on someone else's ego. His eyes widened, just slightly. Then something dangerous flickered across his face, not anger, but something far more complicated. "You have no idea what you're playing with," he said softly. "I'm not playing anything. I'm trying to leave." I turned toward the door, but my hand caught the edge of the side table, sending his glass of wine, deep red, expensive, probably older than me, arcing through the air. It hit his white shirt like a wound, spreading across the fabric in a crimson stain. "I'm so sorry, He grabbed my wrist. Not violently, but firmly, his fingers warm against my skin. Too tight, too long. And in that moment, with his hand on my wrist and wine dripping onto the floor between us and Christmas lights twinkling in the city beyond, something in both of us broke. The kiss was unexpected, fierce, born from anger and loneliness and something neither of us could name. I should have pulled away. I tried to pull away. But then his other hand found my face, gentle despite everything, and I realized I was kissing him back. "You should go," he whispered against my lips, breathing warm and whiskey sweet. "Then tell me to leave," I replied. But he didn't. Love letters don't always come in envelopes. Sometimes they arrive as divorce papers on a cold kitchen counter, signed with betrayal and sealed with silence. I thought I'd escaped that night, but men like Min Ho don't believe in goodbye, and my husband was about to prove he didn't either. The kitchen light flickered above me, casting shadows that danced across the papers like accusations. Christmas lights blinked weakly through the window, red, green, gold, a mockery of joy in a room that felt like a tomb. My hands trembled as I read the words again, as if repetition might change their meaning. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Malcolm's signature sat at the bottom, black ink stark against white paper. Confident, final, like he'd been planning this long before I ever touched Min Ho's lips. The front door opened. I didn't need to look up to know it was him. I could feel Malcolm's presence the way you feel a storm approaching, that pressure change in the air, that knowing before the first raindrop falls. "You're home early," I said, voice hollow. Couldn't sleep. He moved into the kitchen with that careful calm he'd perfected over our 5-year marriage. The calm that meant he was furious. Kept thinking about Christmas, about trust, about vows. I finally looked up. Malcolm stood in the doorway, still wearing his hospital scrubs from his shift. He'd been handsome once, or maybe I just believed he was. Now all I saw was the disappointment etched into every line of his face, the bitterness that had calcified around his mouth like scar tissue. "Malcolm, He held up his phone. The screen glowed between us like a weapon. The photo was grainy but unmistakable. Me, stepping out of the Cross Tower's private entrance, my coat wrapped tight against the soul cold, my hair mussed and my lipstick gone. And in the window above, a silhouette watching me leave Min Ho's penthouse, Min Ho's shadow. My stomach dropped. "Who sent you that?" I whispered. "Does it matter?" Malcolm set the phone down on the counter with deliberate care. Someone who thought I should know, someone who thought I deserved the truth. "It was a mistake." "A mistake," he laughed, but the sound had razors in it. "You flew to Seoul to work, Gabrielle, to send money home, to build our future. And you made a mistake with a billionaire in his penthouse. You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." He moved closer, and I caught the sharp edge in his voice that used to make me flinch. "Explain how my wife ended up in another man's bed. Explain why you haven't looked at me the same way since you got back. Explain why," his voice cracked. "Why when I say I want to work through this, you look like you're mourning something." The words hit too close, because he was right. I was mourning. Not just my marriage, but the ghost of something I'd felt for 3 hours in Seoul. Something wild and dangerous and more alive than anything I'd felt in years. "Then why do you look like you're still thinking about him?" Malcolm asked quietly. I had no answer, so I grabbed my coat and left. The Atlanta cold bit through my jacket as I stood on the apartment steps, breath clouding in front of my face. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, and when it vibrated, I almost didn't check it. Unknown number, international code, Seoul. My heart stopped. The screen flashed. Unknown soul. 7,000 miles away, Minho stood at his office window, watching snow fall over the Han River. He hadn't slept in 48 hours. Hadn't eaten. Had barely moved except to pace, to make calls, to demand answers his staff couldn't provide. "Sir, we've expanded the search to the United States," Yuri said from the doorway, tablet clutched to her chest. "But without a full name, without records." "Then find the records." His voice was steel. "I don't pay you to tell me what you can't do." "Of course, Mr. Minho," she hesitated. "Sir, the board is concerned. You've fired 2 assistants this week, canceled 3 major acquisitions, and the press is starting to ask questions about your distraction." Distraction. As if Gabrielle was something he could compartmentalize, file away, forget. He touched his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. For months before that night, everything had been numb, his body broken, his desire gone, his life reduced to transactions and appearances and the hollow performance of success. Then she'd spoken, and something had woken up inside him. His phone rang. Dr. Choi. "The results are conclusive," the doctor said. "Your condition is permanently cured. I don't know what changed, but whatever happened that night triggered something psychological, neurological. Whatever she is to you, she changed something fundamental." Minho smiled faintly. "Then I'll find her." He ended the call and turned to Yuri. "Book me a flight to Atlanta, private, under a different name." "Sir, are you sure that's?" "She's in Atlanta. I know she is." Because he'd felt it, the way you feel true north. The pull of something inevitable. He left the office 20 minutes later, security flanking him as cameras flashed. The press had been circling for days, sharks smelling blood in the water. One journalist broke through the barrier, shoving a microphone toward his face. "Mr. Minho, is it true your company maid disappeared after spending Christmas night with you?" His silence said everything. And the scandal began. 2 days later, I stood outside the Grand Meridian Hotel, staring up at its gleaming facade. My cleaning agency had called with an emergency request. High-profile client, paying triple rate, requested me specifically. After leaving Malcolm's apartment with nothing but a suitcase and my pride, I needed every dollar I could get. The hotel manager led me to the penthouse suite, handed me the key, and left without a word. I pushed open the door and froze. Minho stood with his back to me, framed against the Atlanta skyline. Same broad shoulders, same perfect posture, same gravitational pull that had destroyed my marriage and possibly my life. Our eyes met in the window's reflection. Time collapsed. Seoul, Atlanta, 2 weeks, an eternity. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered. He turned slowly. "You shouldn't have left." "It was a mistake." "Then why do I still feel it?" He crossed the room in 3 strides, and suddenly we were close enough to touch, close enough to ignite. "Why does every woman I meet feel like a poor copy? Why can't I sleep without seeing your face?" "Minho." "Gabrielle." He said my name like a prayer, like a curse. His hand lifted, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear with devastating gentleness. "You fixed me. Now fix the rest of me." I tried to step back. He moved with me, blocking my path to the door. "Let me leave." "No." A knock shattered the moment. Sharp, official. "Hotel security. We've received a complaint about this room." Minho's eyes widened. We moved simultaneously, ducking into the suite's back hallway as voices echoed in the main room. Security searching. Checking. Someone had tipped them off. Pressed against him in the darkness, I whispered, "This is insane. I have a husband, you have a life. We can't." "Can't what? Feel something real." His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. "What is it?" He showed me the message from Yuri. "Sir, the American press just broke the story. Your mystery woman's husband is demanding a public apology." Malcolm had leaked the photos to the press. The security left. I ran. Outside the hotel, a black car pulled up beside me. The tinted window rolled down. Malcolm sat inside, smiling coldly. You thought he came here for love, he said. He came for revenge. The window rolled up. The car drove away. And I stood there, frozen in the Atlanta cold, not knowing which man was destroying me or if I was destroying myself. The night air smelled of rain and betrayal. One man claimed to love me, the other claimed to own me, and I wasn't sure which was worse. The black car idled at the curb like a predator, exhaust curling into the cold Atlanta night. My feet were rooted to the sidewalk, every instinct screaming at me to run, but Malcolm's eyes held me through the tinted window, daring me, challenging me, reminding me that he'd always been 3 steps ahead. The window lowered completely. He leaned back against the leather seat, looking every bit the wronged husband in his pressed shirt and that expression of calculated hurt he'd perfected. You move on fast, Gabrielle, he said, voice smooth as poisoned honey. Cleaning rooms one day, wrecking empires the next. The words hit like a slap. I stepped closer to the car, anger burning through my fear. You signed the papers. You don't get to stalk me. Stalk, Malcolm laughed, cold and sharp. I'm protecting my investment. 5 years of marriage, putting you through English classes, paying for your work visa. You think that comes without strings. I paid you back every dollar. Did you? He tilted his head, studying me like I was a specimen under glass. Because from where I'm sitting, you still owe me. Your reputation, your dignity, the public humiliation you've caused me. My hands clenched into fists. I humiliated you. Come home, Gabrielle. His tone shifted, softer now, almost gentle, and that's when he was most dangerous. Return quietly. Play the repentant wife. I'll withdraw the photos before your agency fires you, before the press destroys what's left of your name, before your billionaire loses interest and moves on to the next scandal. The offer hung between us like a noose. No. His jaw tightened. In one smooth motion, he opened the car door and stepped out, crossing the space between us in 2 strides. His hand shot out, gripping my wrist, not hard enough to bruise, but firm enough to remind me he could. Then when your new lover falls, he whispered, eyes glinting with something dark and triumphant, I'll make sure you fall with him. He released me and slid back into the car. The window rose. The car pulled away. And across the street, a camera flash exploded in the darkness. Someone was still following us. I ran 6 blocks to Tasha's apartment, lungs burning, rain starting to fall in cold sheets. By the time she opened the door, I was soaked and shaking. Jesus, Gabby, she pulled me inside, wrapped me in a blanket, pushed hot tea into my hands. Tasha had been my anchor since I'd moved to Atlanta, the sister I'd chosen when my own family had written me off for marrying Malcolm. What happened? I couldn't speak. I just handed her my phone. The screen was lit up with notifications, each one a small explosion. News alerts, social media tags, messages from numbers I didn't recognize. The headlines scrolled past like a nightmare. Asian billionaire's mystery made scandal rocks 2 nations. Min Ho's secret lover, immigrant worker or corporate spy. Breaking, CEO's Christmas affair exposed. The comments were worse, brutal, racist, invasive. They called me a gold digger, a homewrecker, a whore. They posted photos of my face, my apartment, my workplace. Someone had found my old Facebook profile and shared every photo, every post, every piece of my life I'd thought was private. I broke. The teacup slipped from my hands, shattering on the floor. I folded in on myself, sobs tearing out of my chest like something was being ripped away. Tasha held me, rocking me like a child. Hey, breathe, just breathe. They're destroying me, I gasped. They're destroying everything. Girl, she pulled back, gripping my shoulders, forcing me to meet her eyes. You broke a billionaire, not the internet. This will pass. Scandals always do. But what if it doesn't? What if Malcolm was right? What if Min Ho just leaves when this gets too messy? Then he's not worth it. Tasha's voice was firm. But Gabby, you need to be real with yourself. Is this man worth losing everything? Your job, your safety, your peace? I didn't have an answer. My phone rang. Min Ho's name flashed across the screen. I'd been ignoring his calls for 2 hours, but Tasha snatched the phone and answered before I could stop her. She's alive, she's safe, and she doesn't want to talk. Put her on. His voice was fierce even through the speaker. Now. Tasha raised an eyebrow at me. I took the phone with trembling hands. Gabrielle. Just my name, but the way he said it made my chest ache. Pack a bag. You're staying with me until this dies down. I can't. That wasn't a question. You don't get to order me around. Someone leaked your address to the press. They're camped outside your building right now. So you have 2 choices. Come with me willingly, or watch me carry you out in front of every camera in Atlanta. The line went dead. Tasha and I stared at each other. Then someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp raps, official, demanding. Tasha looked through the peephole and her eyes went wide. Gabby, it's him. I opened the door. Min-ho stood in the rain, water streaming down his face, his coat soaked through. 2 security guards flanked him, holding umbrellas that did nothing against the storm. He looked like he'd walked through hell to get here, and maybe he had. Our eyes met. Please, he said quietly, just that, please. I grabbed my bag. The lakeside villa was an hour outside Atlanta, hidden behind gates and trees and enough security to guard a small country. Rain hammered against the windows as Min-ho led me inside, his hand barely touching the small of my back, a ghost of contact that somehow felt more intimate than anything we'd done in Seoul. The interior was all warm wood and soft lighting, a fire crackling in the stone fireplace. It should have felt safe. Instead, it felt like a beautiful cage. You'll stay in the guest wing, Min-ho said, shrugging off his wet coat. No one knows about this place except Yuri and my head of security. You're safe here. Safe or trapped? He turned sharply. Is that what you think this is? I don't know what to think anymore. I wrapped my arms around myself. 2 weeks ago, I was invisible. Now I'm front page news and my husband is threatening me and you're, what? Rescuing me, controlling me. Protecting you. I didn't ask for protection. You didn't ask for any of this. His voice rose, frustration breaking through that controlled exterior. You think I wanted this. You think I wanted to turn my life upside down for someone I barely know. The words stung more than they should have. Silence fell between us, thick and heavy. The storm raged outside. The fire crackled. And somewhere in that space, the anger drained away, leaving only exhaustion. I'm sorry, he said finally, quietly. That came out wrong. I moved to the kitchen, needing something to do with my hands. Found pasta, vegetables, olive oil. Started cooking without asking permission. Min-ho watched for a moment, then joined me, chopping garlic with surprising skill. We worked in silence. Our hands brushed, reaching for the same pan. Our shoulders touched, moving around the small space. The chemistry returned, not explosive this time, but simmering, dangerous in its subtlety. You can cook, I said, surprised. My mother insisted, said a man who can't feed himself is just a boy in expensive clothes. A sad smile crossed his face. She died when I was 16. I'm sorry. Don't be, she would have liked you. He paused, knife suspended over the cutting board. She would have said you have *Baram* wind, spirit that can't be tamed. We sat down to eat, and for a moment, it felt almost normal. Almost like 2 people getting to know each other instead of 2 people caught in a scandal. Why did your ex leak your condition? I asked softly. His fork stilled. For a long moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he set down his fork and met my eyes. Because I refused to marry her. She wanted the CEO's wife title more than she wanted me. When I said no, she told the press everything, made me look weak, broken, inadequate. My stock dropped 15% in a day. My rivals circled like sharks. His voice roughened. I've never let anyone that close since, until that night. Until you. He reached across the table. His fingers brushed mine. And suddenly we were standing, moving toward each other like gravity, like inevitability. This kiss was different, slower, deeper, full of something more dangerous than lust. Real emotion. His phone buzzed against the table. We broke apart, breathless. He glanced at the screen and his entire body went rigid. "What?" I asked. He showed me the message from Yuri. "She's not who she says she is." "What is that supposed to mean?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. Minho's fingers flew across his phone. Seconds later, a file appeared on screen, an old immigration record, faded and scanned. My photo, my information, my name listed as Gabrielle Owens Cross. Cross. The blood drained from my face. "Cross," Minho repeated, voice dangerously quiet. "As in Thomas Cross, my former business partner, the man who embezzled $40 million from my company 4 years ago." That was my father's surname. "Your father." He stepped back, and the distance felt like a chasm opening between us. "The same father who died when I was 12, I shouted. "Who I barely knew, who left my mother with nothing but debt and a name I couldn't get rid of fast enough. I didn't even know he worked for you until this moment." "How convenient." The word hit like a slap. "You think I, what? Orchestrated this? Seduced you as some kind of revenge plot for a father I never knew?" I don't know what to think, but his eyes told a different story. Suspicion, hurt, the walls rebuilding brick by brick. "Too many coincidences, Gabrielle, your last name, the timing, Malcolm's sudden interest in destroying me." "You're insane." "Am I?" He grabbed his coat. "Or am I finally seeing clearly?" I wanted to scream, to cry, to make him understand. Instead, I grabbed my bag and ran out the door into the storm, into the darkness that felt less suffocating than the doubt in his eyes. Rain soaked through my clothes in seconds. I made it to the gate before I saw them. Headlights, parked just beyond the property line. Malcolm's car. Watching. Waiting. Inside, I could see him on the phone, lips moving, that cold smile on his face. My phone lit up in my hand. Unknown number, unknown message. "If you love Minho, don't go home tonight." The screen went dark. Thunder rolled across the lake. And I stood frozen between two men who both claimed to want me, wondering which one would destroy me first. Or if I'd destroy myself before either got the chance.